With me here in the studio is Ishbel Matheson from the Overseas Development Institute. Ishbel, let's start with Southeast Asia, where we have seen this massive rise. What do you put it down to?
I think it's just changes in the way that people are living. Rising incomes mean that people have much more money to spend on food. They tend to choose more meat, more sugar, more salt, and those are the things that are really driving obesity. And people are working in a much more office-based environment now. Their mums, their dads, their grandmothers may have worked on the fields. They may even have walked to work. People are on buses, they're in cars, they're in offices. And all of that is combining into this perfect storm to mean we've got this looming obesity crisis with a huge health costs associated.
And is it because people also want to be more Western, young people particularly?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've seen the growth of global food chains, you know, people eating fried chicken, people eating hamburgers. But I think one of the optimistic messages out of the report is that people still really hold on to their own indigenous eating traditions. People love to eat what's traditional in their own food. So in South Korea, for example, as you saw in that film, the government there really built on people's love of fruit and vegetables, bean soup, and have built a really healthy eating culture. So, you know, although we're putting out this message that this is a big problem, we're also saying something can be done about it.
And something is being done by the South Korean government in this particular instance. What about other governments? Are they just being too timid in trying to tackle this?
I think if you look across the piece, our report does this global survey of how governments have responded to this. And what you come away with is this impression that governments are far too timid in the light of this new evidence that actually we're heading towards really a looming health crisis. You know, because obesity means strokes, heart attacks, huge pressure in the developing world on already fragile systems. So we're saying governments have to be tougher, but they've tended to see this as a personal choice.
So when you say tougher, what do you mean?
So I think governments have several levers they can pull. You know, they have education, you know, really robust public education campaigns. They have taxation. They can look at taxes on things like chocolates and sweets, as they've done in some American states. So they can look at a range of options. They've got regulation in Denmark, for example. They've regulated against some of the worst kind of fatty acids in some beef burgers. So it's actually one of the healthiest places to go in the world to go and eat burger and chips in Denmark. You know, so governments can do something about it, but I think overall globally we have to have a much bigger recognition of the scale of the problem, in the same way as governments have tried to tackle, at the other end of the scale, malnutrition through global summits, through big pushes, through really mobilising resources behind it. That's what has to happen with this.
Ishbel, thanks very much for joining us. Plenty more analysis of that report on our website as well. Go to bbc.com/news, and we are going to have more on this topic in the programme. We'd like to hear your thoughts and comments on our Facebook page. You can also tweet